Good evening, traders. This is Taylor from the tradinganalyst.com, and I'm going to go over a couple of chart requests, actually more than a couple. I'm going to go over many charts here, and the idea is to give you a better feel of the analysis that we're doing here, and hopefully you can learn a thing or two. If you have any questions about the analysis, you can always contact me and ask me about it. On the message boards, on the website, however you want to reach me, I'll be more than happy to discuss further what we've talked about in this video. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the video. First chart request we've got is a TSM. And TSM here, first thing that I'm noticing here is that uptrend line right here. You can see many touches against that uptrend line. And you can see here also a break over this pretty key resistance here. I'm going to go to the weekly time frame. You can see that we broke over this resistance right here. Okay, lots of touches right there, and then we broke over it right here finally, and that was right around $26. Okay, looking at this weekly chart, this is extremely bullish. Okay, quite the uptrend. You know, you don't need an uptrend line to see that this is an uptrend. Okay, higher highs, higher lows, heading higher. Okay, so in the short term, definitely see some support down here. If we decide to consolidate lower, about $26 is going to be a good bounce zone on TSM. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the next chart, NVDA. In NVDA here, short term, we've got a lot of resistance here at about 63.43. 63.43, a lot of resistance. We've got a doji candle right here with a lot of volume. Now, I want to see a break over this resistance right here, 63.43. If we close over that, that's going to lead to a big move to the upside. And why do I say that? Well, because right here we have this key support right here, about $60.70. We broke that right here, and as you can see, and this is a clean box break, okay? Broke support and then broke right back above us, okay? Now that's step one to being very bullish. Step two, and the final step, would be a close back over 63.43. So this will be a false breakdown right here, and a false breakdown, and then a break back above this resistance would be extremely bullish. Even more bullish than if it just broke straight over this resistance. Okay, and that's because false moves lead to swift moves in the opposite direction. All right, let's cover this next chart. Twitter. Twitter, nice gap up here. This is a stock that currently am long on, and the members at the website are currently long on as well. Nice bounce here off of this support, as well as off the 200-day moving average. Really like this chart. You can see that we broke outside of this little tight range right here. I'll go ahead and I'll draw this box for you so you can see it a little bit. Alright, so we're trading in this tight range here. Okay, we broke outside of it, came back, retested it again. As long as we keep successfully testing and bouncing off of about $18, $17, we're going to head higher here. This is a nice build here. You know, they're not going to go straight up, okay? Some of them do, but most of them don't, and they take some time to develop, okay? But overall, this is a very nice bottoming pattern here on Twitter, and I think that Twitter heads higher. All right, next stock I'm going to look at is AMD. So AMD here, first thing that I'm seeing, obviously we broke this uptrend line right here. But with that said, I'm not going to put a ton of weight on this uptrend line. So this uptrend line is more of a trailing stop rather than a short signal, for me at least. So I don't have a position on AMD, just that if I did, I'd probably put that trailing stop at a close below that trend line, you know, if you got in from down here. So and the reason being is because most of the time you don't have a stock hold this steep of an uptrend its entire run. Okay, we're going to have some drops below it, but it will save you, potentially save you some money here if you do use that as a trailing stop. So definitely don't think it's out of the question that AMD can get a bounce here, but you can see that it did break that that pretty steep trend line. So looking at short-term levels here, I see a little bit of support pretty much right where we bounced at. Well, a little bit below where we bounced at about 550. Okay, and then I see resistance at about $7. $7 until about $8 is going to be that resistance above us. 550 is that support. And then I'm going to look at the weekly chart. Okay, so we came up to some previous highs up here in 2012. The 2012 highs up here. So not really a surprise that we're seeing some consolidation lower here. Another thing that I want to note here is we've got a lot of volume here. This is two of the biggest volume weeks that we've had in over 2 years. Okay, so these two high volume weeks right here in the last 2 weeks that we've had in the last 2 years. Okay, so to me, this trend could be potentially changing here in the short term. Okay, and the reason I say that is because normally high volume marks either tops or bottoms. Okay, not permanent tops, not permanent bottoms, just short term. It can be permanent, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is permanent. So you get a lot of volume here at the top. Usually marks potentially a short-term top. On the underside, I'm seeing major support down here near about $4. You can see that this was pretty big resistance, many times getting resistance here for a year. Couldn't break over this level. Finally it broke down. Okay, then we came back over here and we broke over that, and you can see how big of a move. We almost doubled in price since breaking over that resistance. So this is a big time break over resistance here, and if we come back down to about $4, that's going to be most likely a good buying opportunity. So I'm going to look at, see if I can draw a Fibonacci retracement level and see if it lines up right there as well. So you can see that we've got a pretty decent Fibonacci retracement level. The golden ratio 61.8 right here at about 420, right around $4. So that matches up with this support as well as the Fibonacci. So from the lows here to the highs here, 61.8 Fibonacci retracement level, which lines up well with the support that we have over here. So definitely a good buying opportunity if we end up breaking lower to about $4. All right, let's look at ACIA. I know this is a popular one here. Let's look at the daily chart. Daily chart here is obviously a very bullish chart overall. So right here, we've got somewhat of a box. You can see that we're trading between about 127 and about $99. Okay, trading sideways right here, trading sideways. I like the volume pickup that we saw right here. Short term, definitely think that we're going to retest the upper end of this box. If we break over that box, over 127, we're going to continue to make new highs. Okay, that's going to be a good breakout signal right here, is a break over that 127. Okay, until then, it's going to be trading in this box. A break below this box would be a signal that we're going to be heading lower. More than likely, the break is going to be to the upside because stocks are more likely to continue their trend than change it. Okay, that's just the probabilities. All right, I'm going to move on to the next chart. ABX. Now ABX, obviously I've looked at this one before. We broke this shorter term uptrend line right here. I was not personally in this stock, but if I was, that would be a trailing stop that I would have right there. So you can capture all these gains, and then get stopped out over here at about $21. So I'm not trying to do any hindsight trading, just trying to show you some strategies that you might be interested in. All right, next I want to draw this other uptrend line right here from the lows in September of last year. And then we've got a touch here, here, and that lines up pretty well with this big time support. You can see it was big time resistance right here, and then we broke over that, and you can see we almost doubled in price over here, and we're coming back down to this support. If we come down to about $13, that's going to be a great buy opportunity in my opinion. We've got this uptrend line as support, and then we've also got this $13 level support from these previous highs, and that's now going to be support. Let's see if I can drop Fibonacci level as well, from the lows down here to the highs up here. And what do you know? Just like the last stock that we looked at, well, not the last stock, the stock before the last lines up perfectly. This 61.8, and you can see that 61.8 right over here, just in case you missed it. 61.8 Fibonacci retracement level that lines up perfectly with this uptrend line as well as this previous resistance, which is now going to be support over here. Okay? I'm going to move on to the next chart, WB. All right, let's see what I can see on WB. Clearly a bullish stock here. And again, nice uptrend line right here. But again, this is a very steep uptrend line. So this would be not necessarily a short signal, but it would be something that I would potentially use as a trailing stop, okay? As a close below it, okay? A touch of it, probably a good opportunity to get long. And that's a good opportunity to get long because it's a very low risk reward trade. So, you know, for example, let's say it goes down to, 44.50, which is right at the uptrend line right there. And then it closes below it at about $44, well, you only lost 50 cents on that trade for a potential gain of, 20% or something like that. So that's a nice way to catch trends, is you get them on a retrace. Okay, you don't want to buy up here, okay, as it's extended from the trend line. You want to buy when it gets closer to the trend line, because that way you can have a lower risk reward trade. So let's look at the weekly time frame here and see if I can see anything. See a lot of support down here near $20, $21. You can see it was resistance here, 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 and then we finally broke over it, and you can see nice breakout once we broke over that resistance. So if we end up coming back down to about $21, I'm not saying it's coming down there. Just saying in the future, if it does head down there, that this is a level that you definitely want to be aware of, that $20, $21. All right, let's look at SWKS. All right, SWKS, well, let's keep it on the weekly time frame. And this is a very nice bottoming pattern that we have here. You can see we broke over the downtrend line, and this is a big downtrend line. This began in the beginning of 2015. You can see how many rejections we have at it. Right here, and then we broke over it, and then we came back down and retested it and bounced really nicely. I really like SWKS. You can see that we had a bullish engulfing candle right here. Very bullish, a lot of volume on that week as well. So nice look here, and I think that SWKS can definitely head higher here. Another look here at these Fibonacci retracement levels. Here you can see that drew the fibs from right here to right here, and we got this retracement of SWKS right between the 50% and the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement level, right at the retest of the downtrend line. Really nice action, very constructive chart here. So you can see this definitely works. Okay, so let's go back really quick. So this is a good opportunity to show you. Here's those Fibonacci's that I drew here, and it bounced right off of there. So you can see it actually working. Okay, rather than before, I'm showing you a potential bounce zone. Well, you can see right here that it worked and it bounced right off of that level. Okay. Next, let's take a look at NPTN. NPTN, definitely a bullish stock here. Nice uptrend line. Right here, here's a touch, here's a touch, here's a few touches right here. Definitely a nice uptrend line. And some of you might be watching this and you'll be like, how did you know that there was an uptrend line? Well, it's just watching enough charts, you're going to be able to do the same thing. So when you look at, 500 plus charts a day, you're going to be able to do this very easily on your own. Okay, so nice uptrend line, lots of touches. Let's see what else I can see here. Looks a bit extended here in the very short term, so we could see some downside. I'm not saying that it will come down. I'm saying that it is potential that it can come down. So I'm going to draw some fibs here from the lows over here to the highs over here, and we see some nice fibs here down near $12 right here, the 61.8, which matches up pretty well with the uptrend line. So by the time it gets down there, if it gets down there, that 61.8 Fibonacci retracement level will match up very nicely with this uptrend line. So it'll go like this, and then this will be inclining, and it'll match up perfectly with that $12. So let's see if anything else I can see on the weekly chart. You can see there's a previous level over here in 2011. We're right near the 2011 highs. We go to the monthly chart. Okay, so that's pretty much it that I'm seeing on NPTN. Let's look at CAR. CAR, a lot of volume here on Friday. Really nice uptrend line right here. And you can see, now if this was a stock that I was watching, I would have had this uptrend line drawn right here already based off of these lows. There's 4 touches. That's clearly an angle right here. Okay? And look at where it bounced right here, right off of that uptrend line. Okay? right off of that uptrend line, and it hammered right here, bounced ferociously off it, okay? So it's not an accident. These uptrend lines, these trend lines in general, they work. You just have to know how to draw them, and it's not that hard. It's definitely something that you should learn. Another thing that I'm seeing here, short-term resistance is right around $39 or so. You can see that we got rejected here, 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 and that's right around where we're at. So could get rejected here and kind of ping around here for a little bit before eventually breaking over. But definitely, in order for it to head higher, obviously it needs to break over this 39 resistance, and if it does, it should continue its trend upwards, because this is a pretty decent little level of resistance here, and if it breaks over that, that could signal the next move higher. Alright, let's cover GoPro and BABA would be next. Oops. Alright, GoPro. If you follow along on these videos I've done recently on GoPro, you know that I liked it. Down here, a bounce off of this level right here. We've got this uptrend line right here, and here's a bounce right here. And another thing I want to mention here is, it may seem silly, but you know, the more and this is kind of subjective here, but I've noticed that, and I've noticed other people noticing this too, is the more, how do I want to say this, the more hate you get on a stock, okay? So the last time I posted this video on GoPro, we had some people saying that GoPro was essentially going to zero, and that I was crazy for thinking that GoPro was going to bounce around here, and that they thought GoPro was going to be heading lower. And I don't get that on every single stock that I talk about, okay? There's a certain manner in which people need to talk about a stock in that way, and that happened on GoPro, and I said to myself, I bet you it's going to be a nice bounce candidate, not only because of the chart, but because you have a lot of people hating on this stock. So when you have a lot of, you know, and I'm going to put this very nicely, amateurs hating on a stock, or in the other direction, you know, loving a stock. When you have them hating on the stock, typically does the opposite of what they think. This is a very beaten down stock, okay? Very beaten down, and so this is kind of the, you know, I'll get on a soapbox right here really quick, but this is very important. So you have all these people that were bullish on GoPro for the longest time, and they were so bullish. And then as it's dropping, they're losing hope, and then you have everyone turning on GoPro as it comes lower and lower. And so as everyone turns, you know, turns from bullish to bearish on this stock, that's when you want to start paying attention, okay? So when everyone starts getting on the bear train for this stock, that's when you want to start listening and going in the opposite direction. I personally liked GoPro short right around here, okay? Right when it was near $50, $60, I liked it short, and I got a lot of hate saying that GoPro was going back to $100, blah, blah, blah. And what do you know? All the amateurs were wrong, and it headed lower, okay? And I'm not trying to pick on people. I'm just trying to show you that this is how market psychology works. And market psychology is a real thing. There's crowd psychology, and this is definitely something that you need to be aware of, you know, when you're investing or when you're trading in the market. Okay, so anyways, GoPro, nice bottoming formation. Same thing as Twitter, really. And Twitter and GoPro are very correlated. They're about, in the last year, they're correlated about 0.95, which is close to exactly correlated as you can get, you know, and we can look at the Twitter chart here. Okay, pretty much the same thing. Okay, here Twitter heading down and then formed this nice bottoming formation and then broke over the 200-day moving average. Okay, let's look at GoPro. Same thing. Okay, very similar looking charts. Okay, so nice bounce off of that trend line. Continue to have this trend line drawn on your chart. Now, this is not as steep of a trend line as some of the other ones that I talked about that I was saying would be a good trailing stop, but not necessarily a short signal. But this is a smoother, nicer, closer to a 90-degree trend line that you can get. So this is a really nice trend line here, and that's definitely something that I would use to trade against on the long side. You can see it bounce right there. Really nice trend line. I would definitely draw this on your own chart. All right, BABA. All right, so BABA here broke out of this little flag formation right here. I'm just going to touch on the overall chart of BABA. This is a very nice bottoming formation. You can see came back down, rejected, came back down, rejected, and here we are consolidating in this really tight range. This was a nice long signal right here, and again we got another nice long signal right here as it broke over these previous highs. Definitely a bullish overall chart here for Alibaba. And here we have, and this is an okay trend line. I'm not going to put a ton of weight, but if it matches up with a support or a resistance once it touches it, then that's going to be a really nice angle to play. And the reason I'm saying I'm not going to put a ton of weight on it just yet is just because we only have 1, 2 touches on that trend line, and I'd really like to see 3 touches or more on a trend line to really hold that you know, some strength against that trend line. But overall, definitely a bullish chart here. If somehow we see some consolidation lower to this trend line and back to this previous resistance here, that's going to be a great buying opportunity. So if you get lucky and it gets down there, definitely a good buying opportunity. Resistance, pretty much these previous highs up here near about 120 is going to be that resistance. So we'll see what it does from here, but those are the levels that you want to pay attention to. Next, let's take a look at AVGO. Now AVGO, obviously we have some nice trends here. I'm going to go to the weekly chart and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so weekly chart going back to the beginning of 2013. We've got a touch here against this trend line, a touch here, a touch here, and then a touch right here. And you can see I have another trend line drawn that began in the beginning of 2014, right here, touches, touches, and right now they're pretty much perfectly in line, okay? Perfectly in line, and you can see we almost hit that on the daily time frame, but overall this is a very bullish chart. It's not something you want to short yet, okay? Potentially on a break below this trend line, but until it does that, this is a very bullish chart, and as long as this trend line holds, we're going to keep making higher highs. All right, next, the last chart request was PANW, Palo Alto, and we'll stay on this weekly time frame. A trend line break right here. You can see how many touches, how many rejections we had at that trend line right here. And then we have a new uptrend line, and I'm going to switch to the daily time frame so you can see it a little bit better. Here's a touch, here's a touch, here's a touch. Almost got a touch right there as it hammered off of that. This is an earnings announcement. I posted that chart before the earnings announcement came, that this would be a good buy opportunity. And what do you know? That's exactly what we got there. So nice overall look here for PANW. The best thing that I'm seeing here is just this new uptrend line. So if we do consolidate lower, that'll be a good buying opportunity. At least that's the way that I'm seeing it. All right, guys, I'm running out of breath here, so I'll make this the last chart that I'm looking at. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate it. Hopefully you guys are learning a thing or two. If you have any questions, If you want to yell at me, if you want to just say hi, go ahead and contact me, and I'd love to chat with you. Have a great night, and I will see you next time.